Yeah. And the reason why you don't review reports with any kind of expectation of accuracy before you resolve your errors is students that are triggering certain errors generally aren't included on the reports. So you can't even get an accurate measurement of your count if that SSID is triggering a certification error, because they're not going to show up on the report. That doesn't, there's still value in looking at the reports as you're working. You just cannot expect, you can't answer the question, why is my data different in my system, my student information system, as opposed to CalPads, until you get all the errors resolved. Then you can do that calculation. So we're going to quickly go through the certification reports. And again, we have to apologize. We know that some of you are new. Some of you would prefer Kyron to go through some more errors. That's why we have the videos. We just don't have 2 hours in this training to dedicate to going through every single error. We want to teach you the method of troubleshooting, and you can apply it to every single error. And that's, part of that critical thinking aspect, and the reason why we want to change training, because having the skill set will allow you to apply it to different scenarios and situations, as opposed to knowing how to specifically troubleshoot Cert 4 and Cert 128. All right, so just a reminder of why end of year 3 requires assistance from your SEDS person as well as the SELPA. There's going to be 3 reports related to incidents that are specific to students with disabilities. And these reports help provide account for students with disabilities that are removed to enter in alternative settings. Also, it's important for the IEP team to look at the students that were unilaterally removed by school personnel, to look at the counts of students with disabilities that were suspended or expelled during the year. They also want to kind of reconcile the count for students with disabilities that were subject to any kind of disciplinary removal or seclusion. And then, it provides a count of the total number of students with disabilities that were subject to a disciplinary removal. So that's why you want the IEP team and your SEDS person to, look at the reports, verify their accuracy, and then that's why the SELPA has to as well. So there's 1 million reports because the data collection is so great, right? And so as always, Kyron's created a legend. Orange color reports are those that are mandatory, that are reviewed, right? So you have your cumulative enrollment report, which is supported by 8.1. You have your 1-year grad report, 1.22, that's supported by 1.23, which is a student list of grads and completers. Then you have your stats information. You have your student absenteeism count, 14.1, which is supported by 14.2, the student list. And you have your ELA status report, which is section 2.16, replacing the fall 1 reports, and it's supported by the student list, 2.17. And then you have your homeless reports, right? Count of homeless students, that's report 5.4, supported by the student list, 5.5. And then you have your several incident reports, which begin with the incident count, 710. Then you have your student offense count, which is 713. Then you have your incident results, persistently dangerous schools, 715. And then your 716, which is supported by 718. And then 716 and 717 as well is reported by 718. 716 and 717 are those aggregate reports related to students with disabilities, and 718 is the list of those students. So we hope, and I think it's important to try to go through and demo the mapping guides, right? But let me push through these reports very quickly. This is 1.21, the cumulative enrollment report. As you can see highlighted, you can filter for the enrollment type, whether it's adjusted or the default. I do believe in those calculations for suspension rate, truancy rate, grad rate, so on and so forth. It's the default. That's why it defaults, right? So the adjusted is for your benefit, but when you're calculating a rate, whether it's suspension, expulsion, graduation, it's the default that is used. Then your grad and completers report. As you can see, these are the categories of different completers listed here. Sorry. And then if you want to look at the individual student elements, You can see the more extensive report is here. And then that's why I say you can see some of the subgroups. You have your ELA status, your foster youth, your tribal. So I misspoke when I said that no other status is important. That, what was your term, Kyron?
Invite discussion.
Yeah, I was inviting discussion. You guys are supposed to challenge me. We're going to talk about the value. I was prompting. Anyway, report 2.16, ELA status, ELs reclassified RFEP. This is the RFEP report. You can see it's not much to it. How many students were reclassified during the academic year? And the ELA status, reclassified student list. These are the students. So this is the report you would need if your RFEP count is off. If Arroyo Vista Middle had 30 RFEPs and only CalPADS only sees 20, you have to go look at the student list and find the students that are missing. Then you can verify the record in CalPADS and see if there's a problem. There was a question about a student's status changing and how it affects the RFEP report, right? First, you would verify if that expected student was included in the report. And if they're not, you would look at that record and then look at the report specs and identify if that student should be included based on the data submitted. And if you feel like the student should be included, you have to amend the data submitted. And we'll try to allow time to walk through a couple scenarios. 5.4 homeless students enrolled. Here's the count of students that have been identified as homeless during the academic year. And I don't think we have a slide for supporting that report. And so I guess this may be an opportunity to answer a question or go to the mapping guide. Will the same students reported as homeless in fall 1 be reported at end of year? If yes, why? If not, maybe we can show you why not or why they would be. And then how can you determine which students will be included in the report? So if you want to jump in, Kyron, real quick, we can do this.
So what report are we looking at?
So we're going to look at 5.5 or 5.4,
Okay.
5.4. And it's,
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we want to go to the report specs. So in the user manual,
we go to the mapping guide. So if you click on this, it brings up the different mapping guides for different variations of the report. So you have your accountability, county, SELPA, and snapshot. So let's go to the snapshot version of the report. And we go to end of year 3. And we go to report 5.4. Okay. 5.4 provides you the description of the report, the different gotchas.
Wait.
Yep, go ahead.
What's very important is the basic selection criteria. And Kyron generalized that as the different gotchas or as a part of that. But the basic selection criteria is very important for every report because it defines who you should expect to be on the report. And so it basically says any open or closed enrollment within the LA anytime during the reporting period. So that student had to first be enrolled in your LA to be included. They have to be a primary, short-term, or secondary enrolled student. Those are your enrollment status codes 10, 20, 30. So we're not worried about private school enrollments, right? So that's something you would want to know. Also, grade level, toddler, preschool, KN. It doesn't include infants. It doesn't include AD. So that's also something you would want to look at. And then they have to have a program record 191 overlapping the enrollment. So the enrollment is the reason why they're included in end of year 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that homeless record has to overlap the enrollment to appear on the report. And so if Kyron scrolls down, here's the picture of the report, and the numbers help you indicate or use the table below to find the field elements. And so you can verify if a student should be on the report or not. Now, the question we asked, should you expect the students that were indicated as homeless in end of year or fall 1 be part of end of year? And so the short answer is yes, because if you scroll up, Kyron, it says under qualifying enrollment, any open or closed enrollment during the report period directly above that is July 1st to June 30th. So students that were enrolled in homeless in fall 1, you should expect them to be on this report as well. If they're not, that's an indication of a problem. Perhaps a record was deleted. Perhaps it was reported incorrectly at fall 1. I don't know. You have to know your students' data, but essentially, report mapping guides have a great value because the CalPAS product are the reports and the counts generated from the reports. And it helps you identify and verify those counts. But there's several different uses for the counts, and several different ways you have to question the counts. And so that's, the reason why this is an important resource. So I wish we had more time, but we don't. So I'm gonna jump back in, Kyron. Kind of shortchanged him, guys. I almost feel bad about that, but not really. And then 710 is the incident count, right? This is your discipline report. You see the count of incidents. This is third column, fourth column is the count of students. And then to the left of that is the count of incidents. And then just a breakdown of the different types of incidents. And then you can see the results above, like incidents involving suspension, code 100, and in-house suspension, code 110. Those are different type of revolts. Incidents involving expulsion is the next two columns. Don't know if it was Doug or Joshua who also mentioned other means of correction or no action, right? Those are still incidents that were violations of Ed Code 48900 or 48915. However, they weren't necessarily suspended or expelled, or it could have been a referral, other means of correction, or could have been, okay, we're not even going to slap you on the wrist this time, no action 400. 7.11 is the incident results. So this is just the different type of results. And then the results list. And so we'll come back to this report, I'm sure, but this is more extensive. It breaks down the students' demographics, their incident results, the incident date. Students might be involved in multiple incidents, if whether or not instructional support was supplied, so on and so forth. You can see the detail in the student list, and that's why we reconcile our counts using the supporting reports. 7.13, student count by offense, right? So this is the list of those students who commit a statutory offense and the different types of offense, whether a weapon was involved or not. 7.14 is the incident offense student list. Again, this is greater detail of 7.13. 7.15 is the incident results by persistently dangerous schools. The CalPAS data guide has a section on what is used to define a persistently dangerous schools. Okay, so you could review the CalPAS data guide, and then you have your different offense codes. These are the more violent offenses, and depending on your population and how many offenses, that will be used to determine if your school is persistently dangerous or not, and then, or what schools in your LEA are persistently dangerous or not. And then you have your incidents of restraints and seclusions and removals for students with disabilities. Again, restraints and seclusions is not just for students with disabilities. Any student that has an incident of restraint or seclusion, it needs to be reported. However, report 7.16 is one of the primary reasons why you need your IEP staff, you need your SEDS data coordinator, the CELPers are going to review these reports, right? And then report 7.17, the unilateral removal for students with disabilities count. And then the supporting report for those two reports is the incident removals for students with disabilities report. And has the offense information, whether or not they were removed to enter an alternative setting or not, the primary disability code, so on and so forth. And so, if we use this slide right here to prompt a question, I'm gonna go real fast, so I apologize. But these reports are to meet accountability requirements or federal reporting requirements or state reporting requirements. They're not really designed for our benefit. And so when you're trying to count how many students were suspended or how many numbers of suspensions we had this year, there's not a suspension report. That's why you have to use the mapping guides. That's why you have to become familiar with the reports and look at them extensively. 710 would be the report that most people would want to go look at, but that's just the incident. It's not necessarily the result. It doesn't even break down, all right, I could try to say I had 6 incidents and of those 6 incidents, it looks like there was 9 suspensions. I mean, that doesn't even make sense, right? And so you'll get frustrated trying to use this report for your interest unless you understand the nuances of the reports, how to use the mapping guide to understand what's being mapped. Because I would say, if you ask me that, I would tell you to go to report 7.12, export the report as an Excel file spreadsheet. So you'd have to know how to do that. You'd have to know, once it's open in Excel, how to set your filters, because then you can filter for the incident, and you can filter for only suspensions or only in school or only out of school suspensions. And there you can use a report to find your count and to meet your needs. But your skill set and your use has to go beyond CalPads. And so we just want to reiterate, we're trying to go in that path. And again, I know Marshall's created a video probably for a different purpose of using Excel and using the filters, but Marshall's really good with the tips and tricks. And if there's an area of information that we're lacking, you can always request a video on a specific topic. Generally, that's, this is how you can use the CalPads reports to meet your needs. And so just moving on, I know that was real quick, but we just want to hammer home some points. Report 8.1 is a student profile list. It's different from Fall 1 because it's your cumulative enrollment. Again, students enrolled at any time during the academic year are in this report. Fall 1, 8.1 is relevant to Census Day, students enrolled on Census Day. And so if all else fails and you're trying to find some student information, you can look at report 8.1. It also supports report 1.21, your cumulative enrollment report. And then your chronic absenteeism report, you have the count of students that are chronically absent, the percentage time, the number, right? So if you have 20 kids that were absent less than 5% of the time, not chronically absent. If 250 kids were absent between 5 and 10% of the time, not chronically absent. The second 2 columns are where you have your chronically absent students who are absent 10% or more of the time. So if you have 15 kids that were absent between 10 and 20% of the time, they're going to be chronically absent. And then whatever kids that are absent 20% of the time, I think it's quite obviously that they would be considered chronically absent. And then here's your supporting report. And why the supporting report is relevant is not only does it help you identify the specific student, if they're chronically absent or not, and the breakdown of why, because you can see the different absences listed. Students that are enrolled less than 30 days, I do not believe they show up on your dashboard. They're going to be on your report. You can see them, but I don't think they would be on the dashboard count. And you could confirm that in the California Dashboard Technical Guide. But I